You don't think everybody else is putting in the hours in the pool? You don't think everybody else is sprinting just as much as Usain Bolt? But there's a switch that, hey, I'm going to be better than you, not because I'm better than you, because I'm going to show you I'm better than you. You know what I mean? And that type of competitive edge and grit is what separates the good from the great, because I have to show up first, right? That's the first thing. I got to show up. But when everybody's reading the papers and everybody's reading, and even players, I think people forget that too. When you start reading articles about yourself, it affects your mental.
Trident Coffee is sponsoring this episode of the Invictus Mindset Podcast. My guys over at Trident taught me something really important this last year, that we are all a bundle of stories, both good and bad, and everything in between. At Trident, they're storytellers. All of their cold brews remind their customers that they are part of something bigger than themselves. They help create connections through symbology and storytelling that engage their customers on an emotional level, and this distinguishes them from other coffee brands. You can find Trident in Imperial Beach and in Coronado. They offer over 14 plus nitro cold brews along with dairy-free options. You can find the perfect brew and pair it with one of their treats from their keto bakery. All these options will allow you to support your health and fitness journey with Trident Coffee. They're more than just a coffee company. You can check them out over at tridentcoffee.com and use code Invictus20 for 20% off online and in tap rooms. Once again, that's tridentcoffee.com. Use code Invictus20 for 20% off online and in tap rooms. Take your coffee experience to the next level. Striving to maximize your potential through health, wellness, and high-level fitness requires tremendous midline strength and stability. Allow the crew over at Element 26 to co-pilot your journey so that you can destroy PRs and not destroy your body. They have this amazing self-locking weightlifting belt that provides a 4-inch uniform profile for optimal intra-abdominal pressure and back support. This quick-release technology allows the pressure to be placed on the buckle and pin instead of the Velcro. Nothing's worse than being at the bottom of a squat and having the Velcro pop on your weightlifting belt. Head on over to element26.co and use code Invictus10 at checkout to receive 10% off all online purchases. Head on over to element26.co and use code Invictus10 at checkout to receive 10% off all online purchases. Destroy your PRs, not your body. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Invictus Mindset Podcast. Today's guest is a former Air Force Academy basketball star. He's traveled the globe in his pursuits of professional basketball, not just in the NBA, but in the G League, the Czech Republic, Venezuela, and Canada. A self-proclaimed octopus because he is a jack of all trades. Longtime friend, Antoine Hood. Welcome to the show, man.
What's going on, Bryce? I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. I'll try to keep my tentacles in, So.
Yeah, right? It seems like you got your hands involved in so many different things, from mentorship to basketball to real estate to poetry to just navigating the world with all these talents that you acquired, not just in your life, but also notably a cancer survivor. That's another very inspirational piece I'd like to share with people. So thanks so much for making the time to connect, man.
No, man, of course, man. I got to thank Jesus for the opportunity, man. It's just relationships are key, and just being a part of this, I'm humbled and honored. What you and your team have built, man, is phenomenal. Y'all got a great group, and I just hope y'all keep this going. So
for sure, man. I mean, and one of our slogans is always full effort is full victory. And throughout your life and your career, Antoine, you give your best effort in everything that you do. And I'm sure that comes from somewhere, whether that was your upbringing or certain challenges that you faced as a child. Where does that effort and work ethic kind of come from?
Well, I mean, I think, let me unpack that in multiple ways, right? So we're all products of our environment. I know it sounds super cliche, but in reality, you can't run from where you're from, right? So you have to internalize it, dissect it, learn from it, and then use those tools that you've been given to better yourself. And I think taking that victim mentality away, regardless of how you were brought up, if you know your parents, if you don't, two-parent home, divorce, whatever you want to hang your hat on, eventually you got to grow past that, right? And I think I've been fortunate enough to, my biggest knock was I'm a suburb guy, and being a black kid from the suburbs, they think you're not as tough as a kid from the hood or the barrio. And it's like, dude, just because I'm in the suburbs doesn't mean I'm just not as hungry and as gritty and as determined as somebody that has less than I, and I would always challenge myself to say, hey, if a kid, from the hood was in my position, am I working as hard as they would? Am I taking advantage of every opportunity each day that I have? And I think that mentality was, you got to give credit where credit is due. My parents instilled a very, very strong work ethic in my life. But from my past, I rode the bench for a long time, man. So I wasn't the man that I am sitting here today, right? I was the last guy on the bench eating nachos in high school games, like literally, like people laughing. I mean, I was stretching for every game, no burn, So it's,
Wow.
And my high school coach, shout out to Ralph Farley, my man. He told me I never played Division III basketball. I mean, there are people just tell me couldn't even make the girls team, and I think for me, I just intuitively funneled all of that negativity and learned to use my body and my mind and my spirit as a transfer portal, right? That's for lack of better words, based on basketball right now.
Yeah,
But,
for sure.
I would transfer that energy, the negative into positive, and I would let it fuel me. And I had a chip on my shoulder, and I mean, I was, I pushed a lot of buttons. I wasn't the easiest guy to get along with at times because I had a lot of pent up frustration that I just always wanted to get out. And
You
basketball
had
was just a way
something to
for me.
prove, man.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like I tell people all the time, if you're going to step into an arena, regardless of where it is, whether it's, academically, whether it's sports, whether it's entertainment, whether it's the chess, whatever you're doing, you have to match the intensity of the people in there. That's the first step. You have no chance if your intensity level and your energy doesn't match your opponent, and that's when you really find out about yourself because everybody's good, right? The difference between good and great is that much. At a certain
Oh, yeah.
level, we're
Very
all
small.
right here. Yeah, exactly. So I tell people it's always the little things, man. It's those micro moments that a lot of people miss because they're looking at 30,000-foot view of life. But if without these micro things happening, you don't even get to big. You don't even get to 30,000 feet. So you gotta be intentional, impactful, and present, and that can change your life across the board. And I think that's something that, as an athlete and young man, I've just figured out. So
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that. It's cool to hear how articulate you are. You've clearly done the deep work to explore yourself, to explore why you are the way you are, why your journey has blossomed the way it has. When you were sitting on the end of that bench and not getting any playing time as a young child, how did that make you feel? And what were some of the actionable steps that you took in order to reach your peak expression within the sport of basketball?
right, it was horrible, man. I mean, I can't tell you how many nights I cried myself to sleep. Just like why, and my parents were very, very rigid when it came to you don't cry. There's no crying. You know what I mean? So I'll cry alone. You know what I mean? And no knock to them. They did the best job they could. I've turned into a pretty successful human, all things considered. But it's just that emotional thing that you feel when you're doing everything you can. It just made me work even harder and harder and harder and just put more time and effort into my craft, right? Even though no one could see me, I'm the first one in the gym, last one to leave, going through practice. The coach is telling me to run to the corner on a 1-2-2 zone, trap, press, and don't turn the ball over. Coach, I'm like, 5'8", 100 pounds, like going against varsity on a 1-2-2 trap. It's a wrap. There's no way I was getting through them, but I got creative. I learned how to throw the no look cross court pass, full court, or, split the trap or pump, whatever. I had to figure it out, and I think that type of adversity, you either grow or you die. There is no in between. And I think that processing all of that emotion and taking all of the ridicule and all of the jokes and all of the being the laughing stock, it really made me appreciate the game even more because as, rest in peace, God bless the dead with Kobe, nobody was in the gym with me shooting jumpers, at nighttime or doing extra plyos or doing whatever I had to do, running extra, anything to just give myself that edge and believing in me. And I tell people all the time, it starts from within. When you wake up and look in the mirror, it starts with you.
Yeah, David Goggins likes to call that the accountability mirror. When you look yourself
Exactly.
in the
Yeah.
mirror, you can't lie to you. You're looking yourself in the eyes, or at least it's very hard to lie to you. I love that the way you describe your work ethic and how lonely it can be sometimes, because sometimes people do it for the external validation or the accolades from social media. And it's like, if you truly love your craft, you're doing it alone. You're doing it to try to master the art of, doubling down on your strengths, trying to improve on your weaknesses, and then also cognitively trying to navigate some of the psychological warfare that comes from lack of opportunity or certain adversities that life will throw you, just through this journey. But one thing I think is really important that I believe you can touch on is, we read and we hear all about the journey of a basketball player. But I think it's important to note, you guys are all humans too. You deal with,
Right.
disagreements with your significant other. You have to make sure your bills are paid on time. You still need to find time to eat, to rest, to take care of your bodies. And sometimes, especially when you hear just the intricate banter from people, on the street and whatnot, they're like, oh yeah, James Harden was terrible last night. I'm like, do you not realize like what goes into the travel and like terrible to you? The guy still had 16 points and, 9 assists, and you're still ripping him a new one because he wasn't, doing what he did in Houston. But I think sometimes the human component of this conversation gets a little bit lost in the weeds.
Oh, without question, man. And I think, like you said, it's something that a lot of people don't realize. When you're in the spotlight and you're on the platform, you don't get to step down. You fall, and very few people have a parachute or safety net waiting for you because you're idolized to a level of really unrealistic expectations, and is it fair? No, right? But at the same time, the amount of money and the amount of influence that we have at this level, whether it's athletes, entertainers, politicians, whatever it may be, you are sacrificing that to influence other people, right, wrong, and different. And I know Charles Barkley says he's not a role model, but that's by default you are, man. Like everybody's not on camera. You know what I mean? And everybody can be, to your point, there are a lot of people could do the same thing that at like James Harden and Embiid and all these other guys are doing, LeBron, and no one cares, right? Because no one's buying your shoes. No one has anything to say about you. And it doesn't mean your story doesn't matter, but there are levels to this like anything in life. And I think people don't realize the amount of mental fortitude and resiliency you have to be great is astronomical. And you only see it in very few people, the Usain Bolts and the Tom Bradys and the Michael Phelps. Like, you don't think everybody else is putting in the hours in the pool? You don't think everybody else is sprinting just as much as Usain Bolt? But there's a switch that, hey, I'm going to be better than you, not because I'm better than you, because I'm going to show you I'm better than you. You know what I mean? And that type of competitive edge and grit is what separates the good from the great, because I have to show up first, right? That's the first thing. I got to show up. But when everybody's reading the papers and everybody's reading, and even players, I think people forget that too. When you start reading articles about yourself, it affects your mental.
Oh, yeah.
It can derail you. That's one thing I never did in college. And even as a pro, I do not read about myself. I don't watch myself on SportsCenter. I do my best to just stay away from that because, from my journey, being the guy on the end of the bench, when I became the superstar, I had a level of relatability that a lot of these guys have never had. They've always been the superstar. You've never been the guy walking around school in your sweats and people know you're on the team. You don't even know what that feels like. I'm in all honors AP classes. I got straight A's, but nobody cares about that. They want to know, well, you're not good at basketball, And I'm like, no, I am good. But for me, it was that opportunity to prove itself. And I mean, I hate to use Eminem, but sometimes you only get one shot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you have to be ready for your opportunity, because for me, luck stands for labor under correct knowledge. I don't believe in luck, but I believe in the laboring and that knowledge and that correction. When you get to that opportunity and the stars align, you will show up, because a lot of people always talk about, man, I'm better than this person, or I'm better than that. If I get an opportunity, okay, well, every day is an opportunity. And your mind, I don't care how talented, how gifted, how touched by God you are, if you lose your mind, you lose it all. And that ability to either even shut out everything, right? Like the Tiger Woods documentary, his ability to shut out the fact that your knee is literally falling apart on the back nine. That mental fortitude is unreal, man. Guys like AI pushing through fractures and fingers. And I mean, it's just another level in how powerful the mind is when you condition it to go through adversity. And I think that's why the glory is so great for those that succeed. But nobody cares about the silver medalists, right? Like, no one cares about who didn't win the finals. No one cares about the runner-up for American Idol. You know what I mean? But those people are just as talented. They are just as good. They are just as qualified. But just because they didn't get to the pinnacle because of a Usain Bolt, or all the guys that didn't win championships because of MJ, like, does that take away from their talent and ability? No, it doesn't. But people only, people love the underdog, but they always follow the lead dog. You know what I mean? So
there's a reason why it says this behind me. Mindset is everything. There's a reason why our podcast is the Invictus Mindset Podcast. And it's just so amazing to hear your passion and the ins and outs. We're just starting this conversation, and hopefully people got a gentle taste of Antoine Hood right there, and sharing some of the passion of mindset. I love what you discussed about luck, labor under correct knowledge. That's some magical stuff right there. And so as you developed this mental fortitude, you didn't want to be the last guy on the bench. I'm sure you experienced a little bit of maturity. We probably got a little bigger, a little stronger. What kind of came next? And then at 13 years old, what was it like navigating a cancer diagnosis with lymphoma?
Yeah, so that was life-changing. You know what I mean? My faith, me and Jesus got real. He's my homeboy. He's my ride or die, my source, the whole nine. Because what I learned through that process is, number one, tomorrow's not promised to anybody, And as they say, the old adage, or I don't know if it's Lao Tzu or whoever, but, every day is a gift, right? The present is a gift. And that's so true, because it's not the disease or any adversity that hurts people. It's the stress. And I cannot explain that enough. I can't sing it from the rooftops. Stress will kill you. It will do the strangest things to your body. It will make you feel like you're having a heart attack when you're not. It's unreal, So I am a very, very big advocate of stress management, because, lymphoma is lymphoma. But I witnessed families and kids. I could almost see from like a spiritual and an energy level, I could see the stress on these families and these kids. And they would ask me, as we're sitting in the recovery room after a spinal tap or CAT scan or whatever procedure we had to go through, chemo, and they'd be like, "Hey man, you think you're going to make it?" And I would say, "Yes." Just childlike faith. I would say, "Yeah, I'm going to make it." And they would say, "I don't think I am." And literally next day, gone. And it was so powerful, because the stress of the parents and the family and the grandparents they were putting on top of somebody who's already going through something difficult. People don't realize, show me your friends, I'll show you your future, because that stress and that energy will be translated, whether you want it to or not. So association is one of the most powerful things on this planet. And to see those family members put that on these kids that are you're already a banana peel slip away, man. Like we all are. And for me, it just became very, very real under that condensed, enclosed environment of going through that on the daily, taking 20 pills a day, urinating green, blue, pink. Like it was insane, just feeling so weak. And I couldn't touch a basketball or do anything athletic just because, the sniffles would have put me under. So from that standpoint forward, when I came out of that, and then some of the visions and like the angels and, not to get all spiritual and all that stuff on you, but the things that I witnessed, it was just so overwhelming. But it's a choice that I made. It's like either I'm going to choose to believe or I'm not. Not that I'm anything special, not that I'm anything chosen, or this is the Matrix and I'm Neo or whatever the case may be. But it all starts with belief. And if you don't believe it, then no one can put it in you. No one can take it from you. No one can do anything for you if it doesn't start from within. So I took that, and that's how I live my life every day. Everybody's like, "Why are you so happy? Why are you so the glass half full?" And this, that, and the third. I'm like, because when you've been on your deathbed and they tell you got 3 months to live, stuff gets real. And I hadn't even lived life. A virgin, hadn't touched, I wasn't into girls. Like there's so much experience that I hadn't even reached. And, it's like looking back, all it took was, to your point, mindset. That's an attitude. Those that you can only control what you can control. I couldn't control anything else. So I just made a choice, and here I sit. You got to laugh. You got to look at the positive. You can't speak negativity because your mouth will also kill you. And I would hear kids every day, "Oh man, I'm hurting." We're all hurting. Everybody's hurting. We're all in the same room, bro. No one in here feels great. No one wants to go run a marathon right now. But the more you vocalize your negativity and the more you attach yourself to that, instead of saying, "You know what? I feel great." Now, I might not be great enough to go out and play 48 minutes of basketball, coming straight out of the cancer ward, but at least I can hang on to whatever good feeling I have. If it's that popsicle I had, you know what? It's a great day at a popsicle. You got to search and dig down because no one has a positive inner voice. Nobody. And I don't think people realize that. It sucks to look good. It sucks to be Bryce Smith and wake up and take care of yourself. And the tattoos look good when you got muscles. Yes, but that's hard work. And then you don't just fall out of bed, and you know what I mean? But people take that stuff for granted and think.
The power of perspective, for sure. And I love that slogan that you have. Dreams lead to hope. Hope leads to faith. And without faith, we can't please the most important person in the world. It just shows that words have power. And the famous phrase, the magical phrase rather, abracadabra, it's Aramaic and signifies, with my word, I create. And I think you dissected the importance of verbiage and how we speak to ourselves and self-talk, which is, when you're on that court, it's you with you. Nobody else is holding your hand, helping you navigate how to guard Carmelo Anthony and some of these other guys you've crossed paths with. It's you.
Right. Exactly right. Exactly.
I can't help too to give a quick little shout out to Mario Kart of that little analogy you threw out with, we're a banana peel away from a slip. I love that, man.
Right. I mean, I think it's comical and it's not, right? Because people, they look at those that are struggling with certain addictions and things like that. And it could be any of us, man. You know what I mean? It's like just that type of mental fortitude to get yourself out of bed every day. People take that for granted. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying everybody, yes, some people have low testosterone or their hormones and this and that. And I get it, right? But at the end of the day, you still have this. No one can take that from you and no one can put it in you. And I think if we can get back to that from a societal standpoint, black, white, brown, otherwise, just control what you can control, man. And that's it. Like, don't be so focused externally because that stuff is going to change. Everybody's going to get hit with it, get smacked in the face at some point. But are you going to get up? And totally, I think, man, as you can attest, both of us, I mean, probably half the people listening, everybody's had a hard moment at some point. You have to if you're going to be successful. Now, hey, if I'm Mark Zuckerberg's child or a Gates kid, maybe I got a different story. But I'm still going to face adversity. Paris Hilton, there's still adversity. Even though you're the heiress to the throne, there's still things. It might be levels to it, like I said, but it doesn't change the fact that her pain doesn't negate anybody else's pain just because, you're a multimillionaire. So
your mindset is just so amazing. I think people are going to get a lot of benefit from our conversation today. And if there are any NBA GMs listening out there, sign this man. Are you not listening to the storytelling? We haven't even gotten to the basketball career yet. When we hear the mentality, the underdog mentality, navigating lymphoma at 13 years old, most people don't learn these lessons until they're well into their 50s. And you got smacked in the face with, something really challenging that most people don't realize. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. And within that space is our power to choose. And that's mindset, that's attitude, that's passion, that's enthusiasm, and you attack life in every element with so much passion, so much enthusiasm. And I'm just so excited to have you on. And, now, as you overcame cancer at a young age, what kind of came next? How did you kind of navigate the AAU circuit? And what did the recruiting process look like that ultimately led you going to the Air Force Academy?
Right. So I'll never forget this, man. And shout out to my man, Brandon Pham. His sister was Lisa Pham. I had a huge crush on back in the day. Never forget this moment. I was at Kimbrough Middle School in Mesquite, Texas, man. And I literally had probably just got cleared off chemo and activity and everything. Went back to the gym. He looked like played. He looked at me. He's like, bro, you lost all of your skill. Bryce crushed me. He said all of my skill had been lost. Had no idea I'd literally just been surviving by the grace of God the last year and whatever. And all my skill. That struck something inside of me that I don't think has ever been struck before. And from that day forward, I vowed to myself, I didn't say a word to him. I literally just walked away. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't moan. I didn't rebuttal. I just said, okay. And I went to work. After that day, I was like, no one will ever, on God, on baby, on whatever you believe in, they will never tell me that I lost my skill. And I got obsessed. Now, I probably went to a little too left, right? Like I was in the gym 28 hours out of 24. Like I was determined to show, and not just him, but just everybody else who had something to say about, You have no idea where I've been. And that's what they didn't know. And I was going to channel all of that to make sure that anyone that ever saw me play or ever came to a game or ever talked trash on the court, you will know Antoine Hood was in the building. I don't care if I go 0 for 90. You're going to know I was there. You know what I mean? I'm at least have 20 rebounds, 50 assists, whatever. I might not be able to buy a bucket, but I'm going to impact somehow, some way.
I love that. They're going to remember your freaking name. And I also think it's important to throw out right there too. We all have a story everybody knows nothing about. And,
Exactly.
we can talk about this later as we unpack the concept of toxic masculinity, but there's so much judgment in the world, and like maybe it's appropriate in the basketball arena because there is, mano-a-mano competition.
Right.
And,
right.
There is, an element of competitive nature associated with that and trash talk, which is always fun, part of the game.
Yeah. Yes, it is indeed.
But, outside of that, it's so interesting because like you said before, alluding to your previous point, our world is so focused on the outcome and, the top dog, who got first place, who's going in the record books. But little do they know that like miracles are made in moments. And it took maybe a special moment for that person to, get that first place finish or a gentle slip up from the competition. Like there's not always context associated with the final outcome. And I just think it's important to highlight that for a brief moment as we kind of storytell your journey.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's awesome. So, and to your point, I think a lot of people success and becoming like it was easier for me to be the guy that nobody knew working hard because there was no expectation, right? Like I'm in the gym, I'm grinding, I'm waiting for the opportunity. And okay, so if I never panned out and I was never anybody, no one would care, right? It wouldn't have mattered. But when I got my opportunity and I proved all that hard work just poured out of me in 1 year in high school. Because I rode the bench to my junior year. Senior year, by the grace of God, one of our dudes transferred out to the brand new high school and I got to start. And we were ranked top 10 in the state. I mean, won like 28 games, beat Woolridge, which was like they went 73-1 through high school. Like they're just a phenomenal public school. Used to go to the East Coast and beat up on everybody. West Coast beat up on everybody. It was amazing. And we were the only team that beat them. So it was, for me, and to your point about AAU, once I got quote unquote respectable or good, then that lazy kind of creeped in, right? Like not that I wasn't working as hard, but now I walk in the gym. Oh man, hey, I know you. Oh, hey, I know you. Oh, man, this guy can play. So then you start feeling that, oh, man, I'm accepted. Like I've made it. I've arrived. And I did not take AAU seriously at all. I'm staying up, big time tournament in Vegas. Everybody's out 2, 3 in the morning. You got 6 games the next day. Like, it was more of a, man, I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I'm in the building. And that to me was kind of a wake up call as well, because I'm watching other guys have one good game and you're going to Kentucky, or one good game, you're going to UCLA. And it's like, dude, I play this dude all the time at the YMCA on Sunday mornings. Like, there's no way this dude is UCLA material. You know what I mean? But that type of laser focus, to your point, miracles and moments. Hey, the coach is there. They need a shooting guard. You hit 20, knock down 4 threes. You got a shot. Now you're going to UCLA, And I think that mentality that I didn't have going in, it definitely didn't help me, to the point that I know, because I played Deron Williams, you know what I mean, in AAU numerous times. And every time I was never prepared. My mental capacity and preparation was never to the level that theirs was, because they were already elite. I'm the underdog guy below the radar, getting the letters from Louisville and Florida and all these other schools, but I'm the preferred walk-on guy. I'm not the, hey, we got a full ride waiting for you. You can pick us. You know what I mean? So when the academy came along, I've always been a smart guy, and I cannot tell people enough. It's, once again, your mindset goes straight to the classroom, man. And I think if you really peel back, and there was a psychological study done on people that were successful athletically, they all are mentally sharp, every one of them. And I think academically, a lot of people sleep on that because it's a whole person concept, man. I know some people like to categorize it and put it in boxes and be, okay, well, I'm just passionate about this, but not about my family. Or I'm just going to go to work and forget about my spouse. Or I'm just going to do this and, not care about anything else. Well, it's a character issue, So if I'm going to put this much intensity and passion into basketball to show people, I'm going to do the same thing academically. I'm going to do the same thing in my relationships. This is going to be who I am. It has to become a mantra of you, because you can't sustain what you're not. So you can't, and that's where a lot of people fall short, because athletes, entertainers, whatever, if you are defined solely by your craft, you will fall. And it's a very, very hard fall, because you're not going to be able to sing forever. You're not going to be able to hoop forever. You're not going to be able to, but what you can do is read. What you can do is go and speak. What you can do is inspire. What you can do is share your story. But if you have nothing else to share outside of these accolades and achievements, where's the depth of you as a person? Where is your character? Where is your, that gusto and that energy and that connectability? Where is it? It doesn't exist, but because you're only a one trick person,
For sure. I like to verbalize it as how you do anything is how you do everything.
There we go. I love it.
Like you said, it's a character thing. And if your name's attached to it, you should take pride in trying to be good at that particular craft in that particular moment. And, it's fascinating when people pick and choose, because all it takes is that cognizant habit. If you cut one corner, it makes it easier to cut another corner somewhere else. And I think it's really cool the way you describe that. So you had that defining moment with Brandon Pham, saying you lost all your skill. You kind of started to get a little bit of respect within the basketball circuit, having a really profound senior season. You dabbled a little bit in the AAU circuit and kind of got a gentle feel, but a little bit of distraction because of the travel, because of, feeling accepted and feeling like you're part of the renowned crew. And, what kind of schools were recruiting you at the time? And what was kind of the mental switch where you realized, like, oh, wow, I need to get my shit together and not so much give in to this, I'm getting letters from schools to be, a preferred walk-on. Like, how do I make the rest of my life the best of my life?
Right. So to your point, those letters made me feel great, right? That was another kind of crucial point, because I feel like, oh man, I'm getting recognized. But then I really started reading the letters, and I'm thinking, man, everybody gets these letters. Not everybody, but if you're somewhat on the radar and you might be a diamond in the rough, they're going to send you a letter. You know what I mean?
You're on a mailing list.
Exactly. So, that made me feel good. Then I realized I wasn't getting any offers from anyone. Like, no one was stepping up to the plate. Like, okay, I'm getting noticed and I'm number 72 ranked in the state of Texas off of one season. That's great. Texas being a large state, and you know what I mean? Like, I'm getting some notoriety, but I'm still not top 10. I'm not top 25. I'm not even top 50, So, and I'm watching these other guys that I'm playing against that I know I've put in more work, more time, more effort. And that's when the business side started to creep in and realize, like, okay, I need someone lobbying for me. You know what I mean? And that's where, my dad, he only played high school basketball, but he took me as far as he could. But he did get out tapes, and we made some tapes, and then we just started sending them out, because there's no other way to get seen if there's no exposure. You know what I mean? And like I said, I was playing well enough on AAU to be noticed, but I was just getting like Division III offers, like Southwestern and Georgetown. And
also, it's important to note, this was, before social media, before we had, video cameras in our pockets nonstop, where you could grab that footage, throw it on Instagram that day. Now, back in the day, it's like you got to take out the camcorder. You got to have some people in your corner to kind of help you out.
Straight VHS.
Straight VHS, man. And then also it was like, to cut and like make the video noteworthy was like a full-time job. So it's like, it's a lot of work. And not to mention, it sounds like you were a little bit of a late bloomer, and it sounds like you had 1 year of monumental success. And what's tough is you get one shot at a first impression. And what's so frustrating within this whole recruiting process is a lot of these coaches only remember, oh yeah, that guy was too small and undersized and unathletic. They don't realize who you are in the now. They only remember who you were the first time they met you. And then what did they do? They compartmentalized you, put you in a box, felt like you weren't on their radar, and then overlooked you, not knowing, oh wow, that underdog mentality can actually breed to lifetime success, as we're seeing here in the now. And also, just to throw it out there for our non-basketball fans listening, when you just pull out your phone and Google the name Damian Lillard, came from a very small school. Google the name Steph Curry, came from Davidson. Google the name CJ McCollum, came from Lehigh. Google the name John Morant, right? And it's just like, some of these guys did not go to big time schools, and look how good they are, because they didn't have a ton of expectation, but now they're blossoming because somebody gave them a shot and they believe in them. And, I just keep going back to that cognizant component of belief. And there's 450 jobs in the NBA, not including some of the, additional reserve and practice players. And those guys can score on anybody on the planet. They can defend anybody on the planet. They probably all have over a 30-inch vertical. It's like, I think people misunderstand sometimes like the athleticism and how profound the NBA level is, and how sometimes these so-called recruiting experts definitely miss a little bit with regards to their recruiting efforts. And I'm not knocking them because their job's probably very hard to evaluate talent and they can't be everywhere all the time. But it is important sometimes to like just throw it out there, open your eyes a little bit and look beyond how many points somebody is scoring and look at, as you mentioned, the intensity, the enthusiasm, the love for the game. And so I just wanted to kind of throw that in there as some noteworthy remarks for some of our listeners or viewers that maybe outside the basketball lens.
Yeah, right. So to pick back up on that recruiting wise, so Coach Delaire, man, shout out to him, great dude. He's at I think he was at A&M. I don't know where he's at now, but he was the head coach of Colorado State. You sent me a handwritten letter, like handwritten. I'm like, let's go. Like, I'm going to CSU, right? Like, finally, like somebody noticed it. We sent out game film all over the nation, and it was VHS game film. It wasn't a highlight tape. It was game film, right? Like, it was legit full game. Put it in. You got to play the whole thing. So when I got that handwritten letter, like, I was through the roof, man. I thought, this is it. And this is another defining moment. And shout out to Mike Morris and the Morris family. You know what I mean? So he went to Cinco Ranch outside of Houston, and I was in Sugar Land and Clements, and they recruited him over me. So, and I'm not saying Mike could play. He had like a 90-inch vertical. He was a crazy athlete. You know what I mean? I think I was probably more fundamental just because I came from the mud type situation. But he actually, I think he hurt his ACL, MCL or something. So it kind of took back a little bit of his athleticism, but he could still play, So, and then Air Force, my dad sent it up there, and the next thing you know, they were on me like white on rice. You know what I mean? So then my parents were always super big on education and academia. So it made sense. And then that's when I started going to, Air Force. Other schools will call. That's when I started getting calls from, West Point, Navy, other service academies, a couple mid-majors like James Madison or St. Mary's, places like that. My mom would hang up the phone on all of them, say he's going to Air Force. I'm like, Mom, like, can I get a visit? Like, can I get the experience of seeing these places? So she was like, nope, you're going to Air Force. So that's where I went. And, when we played Colorado State, it was very, very personal. I took that and I still have the record at Air Force I scored 30 points as a freshman on Colorado State.
Congratulations. That's cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate it. But it was like, I tell people, I don't say that because, like I'm just a legend or this, that, and the third, but it's that type of laser focus. Like, I didn't care if we lost any other game. Granted, I want to win every game I play, but that game, that had a star by it. As MJ said on the documentary, yeah, I took that personal, and I think, that type of, and I'm
You're
not
just
gonna lie.
missing the stogie and the whiskey, man.
Yeah, right. So it was crazy because after that game, Delaire shook my hand and said, I made one of the biggest mistakes I ever made. I'm not recruiting you. And I said, sorry, coach. And I don't think I've ever lost to Colorado State, actually, even when he left the school, and it's funny because then Mike Morris's brother came there, and that literally would have been my story. I think they had 4 7-footers, and with me, him, my brother, I think we would have done some Sweet 16, Elite 8 damage.
Yeah, knocking on the door at March Madness for sure.
Easy, But to your point, like it's that one thing, right? Because Morris's dad, I think his dad played in the league. I can't remember for sure, but that's the type of pedigree. When you have that, it opens doors a lot easier because it's easy to say, oh, we made a mistake on a Mike Morris instead of saying, oh, we took a chance on Antoine Hood.
What's so interesting, though, is, I want to have a conversation with you around this concept of potential.
Yeah, right.
Because sometimes, and you probably have fallen into this too when you were probably recruiting a little bit at the prep school there at the Air Force Academy. You look at talent, and if a guy's got a 90-inch vertical, you're like, well, I can teach him the fundamentals. I can teach him how to get over a ball screen. I can teach him how to communicate better on help side defense. And I can teach him how to operate within our system.
Mm-hmm.
But then the argument's always, I can't teach him to have that level of athleticism, or I can't teach that level of size. But you and I both know that the percentage of guys with talent and with genetic potential is supreme. There's a lot of guys out there that have that without the work ethic, without the mentality that all these shoe companies are knocking on their door. They got boxes and packages of things to get that awesome high school dopamine hit before they've really done anything. And I mean, guys like Renardo Sidney, guys whose NBA careers that were, slim, like a Brandon Jennings, like some of these guys had such notable accolades. And I mean, I grew up watching some of these guys, like just with bright-eyed bushy tail, like, man, these guys are going to be incredible. But then what happens is all these handouts come their way. They get stuck in that mentality of entitlement, lose their work ethic, and then never really pan out. Versus when you got guys with this Rudy style mentality, I also will argue that you can't teach that. And that's just not an intangible that goes on, scout.com and some of these recruiting services. And I'm like, why? Like, I think that's an intangible that is innate, that is in your blood, that you can't inject. You can't just get that, from the genetics of mom and dad. And so I'm curious, what are your thoughts on this element of potential versus innate hustle and grind and work ethic consistently?
Right. To your point, I feel that the mental cognitive ability and that it comes back to character, right? Because guys like myself and you that are high character individuals, you can sense other high character people. Not like we have the know it all, tell it all, magic ball to say everybody we associate with this person of high character, because we can get fooled like anybody else. But riddle me this, I would say the chances of gambling on someone that you think has high character and doesn't will most likely prove you more right than the over-talented person that's lazy. And I agree with your point 1,000,000%, because at the end of the day, it comes down to who you are on the inside. That grit, and Angela Duckworth wrote a great book, Grit. If people haven't read it.
Great reference, man.
Oh, man. Yeah, phenomenal. Shout out to Angela. You know what I mean? I don't know her, but whenever I meet her, that book right there is a game changer, because that is what separates the good from the great. And there's this fallacy that, all the greats are a-holes. And that's not true. Some are, you know what I mean? Like some people, they're just not good people. They're just focused on themselves. They're just really good at their craft, whatever, hockey, baseball, basketball, football, whatever that craft is. And that's all they're known for. But I would beg to argue that there are a lot of good people that may not be the superstars that get the a-hole label, but they're the ones that hold the team together, and they're the ones still getting the championship ring, even though they don't have the same endorsements or notoriety or whatever the case may be. But it's that character piece, right? It's the O-line, if you will. That's who won the Super Bowl for Stafford. You know what I mean? But who knows the O-line? Nobody. We know the defensive guy that got a lot of hype. You know what I mean? Shout out to LA and everybody. Congratulations, ODB. But if he had no time to find Cooper Kupp, there would be no championship. But no one's looking at the O-line. You know what I mean? It's kind of like Jesus riding on the donkey. No one cares about the donkey. Everybody's looking at Jesus. But the donkey still exists. Like, you need these pieces of the puzzle to get to the end game. And I think, to your point, I think a lot of recruiting and coaching is so analytical. Oh, Bryce Smith can tie his shoes in 1.5 seconds. We need this guy. Okay, well, I'm glad he can tie his shoes fast, but what else can he do? When you're down 10 on the road at San Diego State, can he get us back? Or is there any belief in our team? Is our superstar, he can't do it all. Everybody needs help. Nobody is self-made. And then, like Tim Gross's book, Tool of Titans, nobody did this alone. No one. We all need an olive branch of some sort, because you can't get to where you are. You couldn't even pull yourself out of your own mother's womb. So you can't tell me we don't all need help, And I think that type of character and that type of intrinsic focus on people and how they react to adversity and stress, I think that should be the new analytic, because that is what's going to separate the good from the great. And a hardworking guy will win a championship. It's been proven throughout history. The hockey team, the Miracle, you know what I mean? Baseball, Moneyball. You can go you get the right group of people that all believe and they're all on the same page in the same book in the same chapter, and everybody believes the writing on the pages, you can beat anybody.
Totally, man. It's so fascinating you say all this because our world is so fascinated by metrics, and metrics then create marketing. Marketing creates dollars. Dollars are once again a metric. And I really do believe there's a lot of things within the world that cannot be measured. There's a frequency that you and I feel in a bond, even though we're not sitting in the same room, of mutual respect and connection and the following of each other's story and character that not everybody gets to have. I don't have that with every single guest that I get to connect with. And that's not a metric that you can measure of like, oh yeah, they have a connection period of, 1.7%. And that's why this podcast is going to be, really great. It's like, no, there's a human portion and there's a lot of things in the world that science can't explain. And we're trying to understand it all. And we're trying to, navigate the world. But I also think it's important to zoom out and humbly say, there's something here. I don't really know how to quantify it, but I'm seeing the passion. I'm seeing the grit. I'm seeing the true competitive nature. I'm seeing the will to succeed. I'm seeing the innate willingness to want to defend that other team's best player and prevent them from scoring, because even though it doesn't matter to some people, it matters to that athlete. And I want to recognize that, and I want to be notable towards that person. And it's a really interesting component. It's also interesting when you look at the AAU circuit. You mentioned previously that we play 6 games in a day, which is totally true. And it's like you probably like don't eat, or you're probably slamming like a Snickers bar in the bathroom between sets or between games. And it's like, dude, the AAU circuit is wild because it's so many games. It's so much trash basketball that's just like play. And I don't know, it's just interesting how that's used as a measuring stick. And really what it is, it's designed to be convenient for the scouts and the recruiting, experts to have a hub of, okay, we have this pool of athletes all in Vegas in the same weekend. Now I don't need to travel specifically to their individual high schools to, see their capabilities. But then you look and it's just like you're exhausted. You went to school and practiced all week, and then you travel to the, designated location. You play 6 games a day, 3 days in a row. I don't know. I just feel like it can be done a little bit better. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. The AAU world was just so fascinating to me. And I'd also argue this. There's one end of the spectrum where guys pick and choose, like, should I play? Who are the other teams playing? Like, I want to maximize my showcase ability. So I don't always want to go when the best players are there because I want to make sure I can be notable myself. And then there are the other guys that are maybe like, man, my high school's not as popular. I got to put myself out there at every opportunity. But then it's also risky because now scouts will get to see you when you're good. They get to see you when you're mediocre. They get to see you when you're bad because you're playing every single weekend. And so it's almost like this unique artsy craft that you have to play a game in order to get, some sort of accolades or, people seeing your abilities. And it's challenging, man.
No, I agree, man. I mean, I would go to argue and correction, Tim Ferriss. I said Tim Gross on the Tools of Titan.
Yeah. You're probably confusing it with Tim Grover, the famous strength coach.
Yeah, exactly. I read his book too. That was a good one as well. Anyways,
Relentless.
Relentless, yo. So funny how great minds, right? So to your point, I would argue, and me and several of my colleagues, my brother's a college coach, and I know, over 75 Division I coaches, assistant coaches, male, female, the whole nine. So, I have the privilege to get to talk to them, not regularly, but just, in conversation and whatnot, reaching out to people. But we had a consensus that you almost don't even need to play high school basketball anymore. You literally can just play AAU and get a scholarship. Mm-hmm. Because high school basketball now, what is it for? You got the math teacher, that's your head coach. I mean, or the science guy, and most of these people just do it for the extra check. No offense to high school teachers or people trying to make some extra money, but you're not really vested in basketball. Outside of the the Modern Days and all the other private schools and De La Salle's and, like powerhouse schools, the Montverde, like academies, IMG. Like now, if you're really good, you're there on any level. You know what I mean? Regardless of wherever that school is. And I just watched a documentary on that one in Baltimore, like, the football team or whatever. It's like these places are recruiting the top guys now, So it's like if you're a true top guy, you're going to a factory, for lack of better words. And
back in the day, in our day, it was Oak Hill Academy.
Exactly. Yep. Oak Hill, Hargrave and all of them. Exactly right. So now that playing field has kind of been leveled. So many charter schools. There's so many options and opportunities, schools, whatever the case may be. And it's like, okay, if you don't play high school, does it really matter? Because if you can play and you have the right network and you have a bomb July month or June to July, 2 months of quality basketball, you're going to get picked up by IMG or Montverde, Oak Hill. Because all these people, to your point, they're seeing you probably more than they would see you in high school. Because all the Power 5 schools, I can follow the kids I like every tournament. The mid-majors, they have a lot lesser budget. So therefore, the big-time tournaments where everybody's there. But the guys that they want usually don't want them, So,
totally.
But you can still be one of those guys that sneaks through the cracks because of your AAU team and where you are and all of that. If you have a good summer, that's really what separates you. High school, I mean, not saying it's irrelevant, but in so many ways, unless the school's already on you,
it's hard unless you're at a notable high school for sure. 2 important factors for us over at Invictus Mindset are true care and attention to detail. My friends over at RX Smart Gear have been bringing innovative fitness tools to the market since 2009. From their award-winning Evo speed ropes to their amazing gymnastics grips to their line of inflatable fitness equipment, they're constantly looking to problem solve within the fitness industry. They're always allowing us to have our gear work for us rather than against us. Hop on over to RX Smart Gear and use discount code Invictus Mindset to shop their latest cutting edge gear. Have your gear work with you and not against you. It's fascinating too. I want to give a quick shout out to someone like a Bo Jackson. When you look at, you and I talked a little offline around the human experience, a lot of kids, and I was probably one of these, I still wanted to be a high school kid. I didn't just want my whole life to be basketball. And honestly, it turned into that. My whole life was basically basketball. And, what are your thoughts on that? And how do you educate? You've got 2 boys that are 11 and 8. And, I'm not sure if they're following your footsteps and playing some hoops or maybe playing some other sports. But what are your thoughts? Obviously the parents kind of push because they see how expensive college is and they want to get that college scholarship and they want to see their kids pursue this element of societal success. But it's like, how do you do that without taking away the childhood and the high school experience and the connection with the other students?
Right. That's a difficult one, man. I mean, unfortunately, everything is so rapidly faster now, right? It's sped up. That innocence and that childhood is literally being stripped away, I would say, almost at the 3rd grade level. And I say that to say this, the stratification starts so soon, man. You got the best 3rd grader in the nation already. Like, there's only in the 3rd grade. You know what I mean? And it's like, you got, no offense to Alabama and, Nick Saban and them, but they're coming out to middle school games for talent, Yeah. And I get it. Nowadays, with the microwave and this generation, I can reach out to anybody like that. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, it's Snapchat. It's so instantaneously direct. He might not come to Alabama, or he might not go to San Diego State, or he might not. So that's being stripped back. And then with these AAU coaches, these college coaches, and now with this NIL and all that, the parents get paid. Kids get paid. Who's getting the check? Your kids in high school legally can only make so much money based on state laws, federal, this, that, and the third. So who's getting the rest of the money? The parents. Yeah, so who's going to be influenced to say, well, Bryce, I know you don't really like basketball, but we need these checks. You know what I mean? Like,
It's crazy too, like the hypocrisy associated with it because, everything with Reggie Bush and USC back in the day, like that dude was a baller in college. Like some of the things that he did, we've only seen on Madden.
Right? R2, R2.
For sure, man. It's unreal like what's going on. These college athletes are making so much money. What are your thoughts on that with your brother being a college coach as well? Where's he coaching at, by the way?
Hey, he's at UTSA. Shout out to Adam Hood.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah, man. I think it's extremely difficult for mid-majors, right? Because the Power Fives, think about the alumni, the Association of Ohio States, and yeah, University of Texas. I mean, Florida State. We can go down the laundry list of schools that have deep pocket alumni. Not all professional sports. I'm talking entertainers. We're talking politicians. We're talking business owners. So that list is a very, very long list. And I mean, as a collegiate athlete that didn't get paid, but they were selling my jersey and they were using my name and they were marketing everything, I can't say it's wrong because nobody's sitting in the ice bath with me after playing 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
No, nobody's giving me a massage. Nobody's doing my English paper. You know what I mean? Coming from the Air Force Academy, I did not have a normal collegiate experience with,
Mm-hmm.
I had a grade officer asking why I'm walking around the hall at 2:00 in the morning. And I'm like, well, sir, I'm done with the game on ESPN because we have to play the late game in the Mountain West. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
Maintenance and everything you put, everybody glorifies athleticism and glorifies these talents and these awards, but you haven't been in the trenches. Like I'm up at 5:00 working out. You know what I mean? While you're asleep, I'm up.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to test Bryce. You train. You still have to be. You can't tell your clients to do what you're not doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people miss that in the process. It's almost not fun at a certain point because then it does, to your point, that innocence and that fun. And I think that's what's wrong with sports in general is the fun's being stripped away so young. And I agree, you want to play for fun and you want to win, but then at some point, it's already a job as you're a high school kid because now you're getting paid.
Yeah.
And then going into college, it's like it becomes side of it, the brand wars, the AAU wars, play for this team, you go to this school, play for that team, you're going to that school. All that stuff is correlated and I think it's been going on for a very, very long time. I think now, just like everything else in society, instant access, right?
And it's more popularized because it's technically legal. Before all the nil stuff was going on, behind the radar and swept under the rug and masked as like, oh no, we're just, helping his brother's sister's cousin's girlfriend. And then somehow the money ended up in our bank account so that we could have a 5-story house really close to the school. It's just conveniently worked out that way. But, Nick Saban had nothing to do with it. Don't worry about it. It's little things like that. And I'm not saying just Nick Saban because he has to do it in order to keep his job. And all these other guys got to do it to keep their job too, right? So it's like you find ways to justify it within the game. And I'm sure, a lot of these big time coaches are doing this because they're trying to create opportunities and maximize the potential of the program. It creates notoriety for the school. It enhances potential for the athletes and, the entire athletic department. And so it's a very slippery slope. It's hard to navigate those waters. And, I don't want to sit here and put those guys down because they're put between a rock and a hard place. And I'm sure a lot of the decisions they make, are made from a fight or flight response of, man, I see I've got kids over here and a wife that I need to provide for. And, if I don't make this happen, then I'm going to be SOL. And that's what I want to discuss with you next. As you transitioned your senior year at the Air Force Academy, you averaged just over 15 points a game. You got your squad to March Madness. You had some cool events. I think I read a little bit. You had a cool steal against Raymond Felton, who played at North Carolina for a little while. You had some really cool plays that, are notable all over the internet. And then you decided, okay, I'm going to take this leap to try to go to the NBA, which is challenging when you come from a paramilitary school because you do have a 5-year commitment to the Department of Defense. How did you kind of navigate those waters, and what was your early NBA career like?
So, I mean, with coming from the academy, I think it's it's a special thing, right? Because since David Robinson hasn't really been that type of talent at a military school from a basketball prowess, right? I mean, there are guys before me like Raymond Dudley, shout out to Raymond Dudley and Otis Jones, right? But talking to them directly, they said they would trade all of their awards just to be on a winning team. Because I think everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And that's the mantra of any military academy for that reason. And that also being said, it's the patriotism and the ability to connect and do something that less than 1% protect the other 99, So for me to be a part of that, it was a very, very internal struggle with basketball, and then also honoring my commitment because, the statistic for making to the NBA is 1 out of 10 million or whatever that stat is, you know what I mean? So like, that's another, so I'm speaking of metrics, I'm in between two very, very powerful game-changing metrics. And at the end of the day, I raised my hand to serve, so I had to honor my commitment, high integrity and character, like you stated, and kind of put the basketball on the back burner, which was not easy to do. Much of the game. I love the game. The game's given me a lot that, it was a very, very hard mental place to be in when I'm walking around these bases or meeting these colonels and generals and congressmen and high-end civilian employees, GS. Everybody remembers you from the academy. They remember the basketball. You know what I mean? And like, it's no offense to our country or any, the wars that we fought, or people lay their lives on the line, but people talk about sports. It's a very, very military-esque, thank you, topic, right? Like, because a lot of people with patriotism, for whatever reason, comes sports. It's just kind of a hand-in-hand thing. And so for me, it took a lot of mental capacity to hear about how I impacted people's lives from a sport. You know what I mean? And I'm talking, combat controllers, Navy SEALs, Green Berets, like people that were downrange watching me play basketball in the NCAA tournament because of the military academy that made it that far. You know what I mean? And it's like, you don't really, you're on that level until you hear it. You know what I mean? Or how many lives that, you saved and how much you give people just because I wanted to do and express myself, and it was able to impact and change lives of men and women across the world. And it was just a very, very sobering thought to think that it's bigger than basketball. I think that's something that even at the academy, when I was continue to tell our guys, like, hey man, like nobody does what we do. Like nobody gets up at 5 o'clock to clean the bathroom. Nobody else is marching to breakfast, going through character development and leadership training, and every teacher's a PhD professor, every class, and you have to go to class. You don't get any passes. We are true student athletes here, and I would say all that you have from getting up that early, we need to punish every team that comes into our gym, or and I think that type of mentality is something that I carried with me, as well as some of my teammates, coaches, etc. That, man, this is different. It's not a normal collegiate experience, and therefore the way I go out and perform should also be abnormal in the sense that I don't care if I'm down 20, I'm fighting until the game is over, and if that type of tenacity, we were able to be successful, and we didn't even realize what we were doing, Bryce. That's what's crazy. Like, I just wanted to win. I didn't care what it looked like. I didn't care how many points I had. All I wanted to do was win, because I know all ships rise to change the landscape of Air Force basketball.
Yeah, you definitely did that, man. Having one of the most successful teams since 1962, and making the tournament a couple times. And I also love what you described with the element of being a student athlete, where there's a lot of schools out there where you can skip class occasionally, or we saw the whole thing. I don't know if it was an ESPN 30 for 30 or something like that around paper classes, how a lot of athletes were just having their tutors or their mentors write their papers for them and turning them in so they could get a couple grades. And also to mention, when you play in the Mountain West, it's not like the Pac-12 that's all up and down the coast, where it's a relatively close proximity geographically. The Mountain West, you were playing San Diego State, then you were playing New Mexico, then you're playing BYU, then you're playing Montana, and it's like you're all over the map. And the travel associated with that is tough. You're crossing time zones. You're going to altitude and then no altitude. The food situation, the sleep, you're trying to keep up with really high level academia. not to mention all the military that comes with it of, making sure your room is ready for inspection, making sure your uniform is ironed. There was a lot of rules and regulations that you guys needed to abide by that a lot of other student athletes do not participate in, or they wake up, they're beat up from the game the night before, and they're like, I'll just skip class today. My instructor will understand. And they get a benefit of the doubt because the instructor is a big fan, of the team, and they give them, oh yeah, you can have 3 or 4 extra days to turn in your paper. You're not getting that at the Air Force Academy. It's crazy, man. Like it really is crazy to reflect on a little bit. Like, it's cool to see the transferable skills because you obviously turned out as, a top 1% human, but there's a reason why. You've put in the work. And, I want to share with our listeners, you've been on a very unique, perseverant journey to try to stick with an NBA roster. We discussed briefly your original commitment to the Department of Defense post-graduation from the military academy, there being the Air Force. And, then you had some small stints. You were with the Denver Nuggets for a little bit where you got to play with, Carmelo Anthony, Marcus Camby, Allen Iverson, Kenyon Martin, some of these guys. And, what was that original NBA stint kind of like? You made it past the first cut. And, what have some of these, little stints in the NBA been like?
I mean, it's phenomenal, man. I think for me, it was like drinking from a fire hose, because I was coming from such a regimented life, like breakfast is this time, lunch is this time, practice, boom, 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 school, homework. Like, it was very regimented, and then it's like I went from, I guess for lack of better words, a prison to the Autobahn in Germany, right? Like, there's no speed limit. It's just go, So I had to really just sit back and take it all in because it wasn't the basketball that was hard. It's the lifestyle, man. And that's what I tell people all the time. The sport itself is not the problem. Everybody can play and shoot and catch and pass and hit the puck and score the goals, whatever the case may be. But it's the life. It's the women. It's the wine. It's the dance. It's the boosters. It's the charity events. It's all the other things that are pulling on you. And, I mean, I'll never forget one story when I was with the Nuggets and I was out eating with Carmelo and I think it was me, Carmelo, Joe Smith, and maybe Reggie Evans. And then it might have been Andre and Chauncey Billups too. But we're all sitting there eating and Melo's like, Rook, you're signing all the autographs. And my steak was cold, like ice cold. I could not eat my steak because I signed probably 100 autographs and pictures, and it's like, dude, we're in training camp. I just got done working out like 2 days. Like, I'm hungry and I'm signing autographs. You know what I mean? And I got a taste of that lifestyle of like, man, like you just really want some privacy. And then, I'm going to the bathroom in the urinal and like, mind you, I'm not even a superstar guy. This guy's like, oh man, you play for the Nuggets. Can I get an autograph? I'm like, dude, once I'm done, I have no problem giving you an autograph, a picture, whatever you want, man. But he gets upset and then gets on Twitter and I'm like, dude, there's no context here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm literally in the bathroom, bro, and you won't even, it's just unreal, man. So like, for me, it was, it was great. I mean, I had the NBA 2K moment, of course, when I first saw Melo, you know what I mean? Cause like, one of my first workouts was with Jerry McNamara. Shout out to G-Mac back in the day. And that's right when he came off the overrated and this and that, you know what I mean? So I'm thinking like, oh man, this is the dude. And I had to give McNamara that work. But anyways,
You gotta send me that footage if you can find it on YouTube so we can put that in the show notes.
Yeah, yeah, right. I mean, oh my goodness, man, it was that was quite the workout right there, boy. I tell you. But yeah, so then when I was there, we played 5-on-5 full, and then I had the chance to guard Carmelo, and nobody else wanted to guard him, right? So Kmart Kenyon was like, "Yo, who's guarding?" I was like, "I'll take him." Of course, I'm a step up like the Rook, mind you. I'm 6'4", 6'5", maybe 190, 200, and this is Carmelo. So he literally scored all 7 points on me. I'll never forget it.
How big was Carmelo at the time? What was he, 6'8", 240?
Yeah, this was like young Melo, like I'm talking.
Still explosive, ready to dunk on you fresh out of Syracuse Melo.
Yeah, the dude he's built very, very different. He's one of those gifted people we discussed earlier. And I mean, I wanted to quit basketball, man. I'm literally using all of my strength to push, pull, foul, step back, floater, dunk, spin move, full court, bank, bank, cross me up. I was just, this is unreal. Like, I literally felt like a toddler in a car seat, like just getting carried everywhere because I physically could not stop that guy. And it was, I mean, like I said, Melo's a great dude, man. Shout out to Melo. Just his perseverance and grit to get back to the league and do what he's done and set the records he's set, man, is phenomenal.
I really admire his humility too. Like, he was a guy that obviously was the guy for a very long time. And the willingness to take a reserve role, but still be a knockdown shooter. You don't hear him in front of the press complaining. He just accepts his role and just tries to be the best he can. He was awesome when he came off the bench in Portland, after his time away from the game. And so just to see the character there has been pretty freaking cool. I'm a big fan of his. And you had some stories too with Allen Iverson there when you were in Denver as well. What was it like hanging out with him at the tail end of his career?
Man, I mean, like, shout out to Bubba Chuck. I don't think we'll never see an Allen Iverson again. Like his ability to change speed and pace. I don't even know, man. Once again, I wanted to quit basketball. So, we're going through practice. And he probably missed like maybe 10, 15 shots in a row, right? So I'm like, oh, man, I'm like, man, can't wait to get home, tell everybody I locked down AI and practice. Let's go. I'm ready. I'm Denver PD out here. And then he's like, I'm not missing because of you. I'm only missing because I don't care right now. I was like, yeah, right. Here I am talking trash to one of the greatest who ever done it, right? Like that's the kind of competitor I am. You know what I mean? Like I'm still talking trash. And he's like, I'm going to hit the next 10 shots. And I said, yeah, I was like, oh, my mama, you won't. He's like, well, your mama she's probably going to die today because I'm hitting the next 10. And that mofo hit the next 10. Bryce, I wanted to quit basketball, bro. Like, I was like, what in the world? Like, his ability to mentally shift like that, I learned a lot from that day, right? Because I'm thinking, this dude literally missed 10, 15, 20 shots in a row and then told me he's going to hit the next 10 and hit the next 10. And there were no words to be said. I just tucked my tail and walked off like.
What was the context there? Were you playing pick and roll basketball? Was he ISOing you in a 1-4 flat? What did it kind of look like?
I took it once again, it was like back to the nightmares of Carmelo. I took it any way they were giving it. Sets, pick and roll, transition. Like he was waiting for me to come and catch up just so he could do me in. Like, the dude's a savage, man. The dude is a savage, and then, just
change of speed, change of direction. Not to mention, he changed the game of basketball with the hip hop, with the tattoos, with the swagger, with practice. You're talking about practice. But what's so funny is everybody wants to bring that moment up from SportsCenter, but in reality, there's moments like this that were also in a closed practice that people don't remember, that they don't talk about. And it's so fascinating how the media can shift so much of our perception of players.
Oh, man, right. Don't get it twisted. Bubba Chuck put in work, man. You know what I mean? It might not have been the work that, like I said, God bless the dead with Kobe, that got publicized like him and Michael Jordan, but everybody at that level works, man. You know what I mean? There are levels to it like anybody else. Shout out to Dirk, too. Another hard worker, but you don't get to do the things that these people have done without putting in any extra. It's just not possible. Now, some put in more than others, I will say that, but there's still a certain level of elite.
Moving around a little bit, most notably with the Denver Nuggets when him and Carmelo kind of got together, and that was your very first stint in the NBA. What were some of the other organizations that you got to play with for a little while, and what were some cool stories associated with your NBA journey?
Yeah, man. Shout out to Andre Miller too, man, in Denver. That man really taught me a lot as a guard. I think Dre was very underrated. You know what I mean? Like,
it's such an old man game too. Like he wasn't above the rim. He looked so freaking slow. And then all of a sudden, just like you look at the score sheet and he's averaging like 35. You're like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe one of the best passers people never heard of, man. That dude could pass. You know what I mean? And then shout out to Anthony Carter too, man. Another guy, journeyman, hard worker, really helped me learn how to be a pro, in a lot of ways. So it was good to have guys. Reggie Evans too. Shout out to him, man. Took me under his wing as well in Denver, and Chauncey poured a little bit into me when he was there as well. So it's just good there are guys that are doing, the mentor thing and really looking out. And Joe Smith too, another good individual. And so, yeah, I mean, you can definitely tell the difference between organizations, right? And then shout out to George Karl too, man. Maybe one of the best coaches to do it. Used to call me the president back in the day, So it was good times. It was good times. But yeah, so I mean, I went to San Antonio as well. So it's just San Antonio and Denver, two completely different organizations. I mean, both stand out in their own right, and both have had successes. Of course, San Antonio definitely has had more success when it comes to championships and finals, and as far as just notoriety in a lesser market than Denver when it comes to just marketing and things of that nature. But another good organization, I had a chance to, play with Kawhi his rookie year, when he came out. And you can attest to from San Diego State, Kawhi was built different. I'll never forget, I tried to grab a rebound and he put his hand in my hip and like moved me like a controller, like out of the way, and grabbed the ball. And I said, oh, this dude's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Like
his hands are like the size of my entire torso. Not
Right.
only did I get to play with him a little bit at San Diego State, but he's from the general LA area that I'm from. We played a little bit on the same AAU team a little bit, which was awesome having him on my team. But when we played against his team in the semifinals of the state championship, he guarded me the entire game. And I think I was coming in averaging close to 20 a game. And I had like 13 points, almost all from the free throw line, because I could not get a shot off over his 7-foot wingspan and hands that were the size of my entire body. Like the dude chased me off every single like double screen that I was running around. I feel like I was running miles on that court. And then I looked at the final stat sheet and I'm like, damn, not only was my field goal percentage trash, but they beat us by 2 points and we were like ranked higher than them. And he's just a stud, man. For people that don't know, Kawhi Leonard he deserves the accolades. He's a two-way player as well. He's not just a scorer, but like very fundamental, great teammate, didn't talk any trash. I don't think he said a word when I played against them. And just a stud, man.
Yeah, no, great dude, man. Great dude. And then, I mean, got a chance to hang out with TD too, Tim Duncan. Shout out to him, man. Talk about Mr. Fundamental, you know what I mean? And Tony as well, and Ginobili, during their heyday. I mean, it was just a good group of guys that, once again, like you said, it goes back to belief and mindset, man. And all those dudes were locked in and, wanted to win, you know what I mean? And shout out to Danny Green. He's still stealing my money. Nah. No, DG is a good dude, man. But
he had a good game last night for the Sixers. He knocked down some big time threes for those guys.
Yeah, no, he can do that. And shout out to James, my man James, the GM of Phoenix too, man. Great dude. What is James's last name? Is it Jones? Jones, I think. Yeah, Jones. Yeah, another good dude, man. Just another journeyman guy. Really, just you learn how to be a pro, man, from talking to the guys that don't get a lot of the limelight and clout, but still have an integral part, practice in teams and things like that. You know what I mean? So it's a good it's good to see that dynamic across the board. And then had a chance to work out with the Milwaukee Bucks too, another great organization, Oklahoma City, Miami Heat. So yeah, it was I got to, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, shout out to them and LeBron as well. Probably doesn't remember me because I wasn't there very long, but it's still just to be on the court with those guys. And I don't think people understand how gifted LeBron James really is. You know what I mean? Like the dude literally can play all 5 positions, and his ability to transition from a steal or loose ball to the other end of the court, it was unreal. Him and D Wade, it was unreal.
It's funny you say that. I used to train, and I still do it when I pop up to LA to visit family. But there's a set of stairs in Santa Monica on 7th and San Vicente. They're famous. They're called the Santa Monica Stairs. And I was there one day, and there was a guy named, I think his name was Benny or Ben, and he was an NBA referee. And I just remember picking his brain. I was asking him, like, hey, who's fastest from point A to point B on the court? Like, who's the hardest to referee? And he was like, dude, I oftentimes have to just blow a whistle and give LeBron the call because I can't keep up with him once he gets a steal and he's in transition. And so it's funny, like they talked a little bit about like Rajon Rondo. They talked a little bit about, what's his name? Something Ford from Texas, TJ Ford, before he had the injuries.
Oh, yeah, TJ,
he was incredibly fast as well. They talked about AI. He talked a little bit about Russell Westbrook, and just you look at their not only their speed, but they're maybe taking 2 dribbles full court to try to get to the rim. And it's fascinating you say that, man. Like, these guys, not only are they gifted, but they're doing it in such an efficient manner because they cover so much space with such little effort. And people don't realize how small the NBA court feels when you have these big time athletes, really big wingspans, and guys that can move like no other.
Without question. Without question.
You also journeyed a little bit overseas, man. You played a little bit in the G League, obviously. You played at the Czech Republic, Venezuela, Canada. What was that like, traveling the world, involving yourself in different cultures, different customs, and getting paid to play the sport you love?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's different, right? Like, overseas guys are just built different, man. Like, you have to really, either love the country or the culture, or you fall in love with a local girl, like one of the two, right? Because it's a lot harder being in any place outside of America that doesn't have a Walmart or a Target or, a place you can go. And they got McDonald's, so you can always find Mickey D's no matter where you are in the world for whatever reason.
That's the first thing I ate when I had like the super long flight to Sweden. I got there. They detained me in the airport in Stockton for a little while because I hadn't finalized my visa, my contract, and everything. So I'm like sitting there and I'm like, I'm so hungry. Like, once they finished finalizing it and we're like traveling down to the city that I was going to play in, I was like, can we please stop at the Golden Arches? I think my first meal there was a 30-piece chicken nugget.
Right? I mean,
I'm sure you can attest to that after all your travels.
Oh, man, you already know. You already know, man. I mean, it was cool because, I picked up Spanish. Just I took like 7 years of it. Took it in high school, honors, AP, and used to volunteer at like hospitals back in the day and try to translate and whatnot. So South America was really cool because I just blended in, right? Like, everybody thought I was either Dominican or even Venezuelan or whatever. So that was like a really awesome feel because in Central Europe, as a Black American, it should be illegal, right? Like, you just get mobbed everywhere because you just stand out everywhere. And then, I mean, I've been to China on some tours too, playing in that stuff. And it's the same thing in China. Like, you cannot blend in anywhere. You know what I mean? So you get to feel like a LeBron James over there because it's just swarm everywhere you go. So yeah, man. A lot of that, it's shocking. The brand of basketball is different, and you can attest to this too. Just with triple threat and jab steps, you get called for travel on moves that you do over here that aren't travel. Over there, you got to put it down first, and you just kind of got to adjust. You don't get any calls at all. So like going to the hole overseas, not really the best way to stay over there.
I always tried to keep my mouth shut because I kind of blended in with the Eastern Europeans until I opened my mouth. And I always try to keep my mouth shut because I was like, once I started talking trash, I wasn't getting any calls anymore. They don't even give you a name. You're just known as the American. You're like the guy that's here that's taking a job away from a local guy.
Right? Well, the one thing about overseas, I will say, man, your locals mean everything. The better locals you have, you're gonna win. You're gonna win. That's just how it goes. And I don't think a lot of people realize that because they want you to come over there and be LeBron James and Michael Jordan. And dude, like, you can, like any game, I can score 50 points a game, but I can't win by myself. It's been proven, So you gotta have good locals, and the good locals they make the game a whole lot easier over there for sure.
Totally. When you went over there, did it help you reinvigorate your love for the sport? It definitely did that for me a little bit, as my college career did not pan out the way I had hoped. And going over there, it was like, it kind of reinvigorated it a little bit and helped me realize there's different brands of basketball all over the world. It's not just the NBA.
I mean, I think for me, it kind of soured it a little bit based on the fact that the money was funny, And I think a lot of people glamorize the overseas life and this and that. You can tell me you're going to pay me $80,000, a month, but okay, I get 5 this month and then 2 the next month, and then like you're practicing 9 times a day, and it's just a whole different basketball way. Which I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just a different style. But when you're not getting paid, I don't care what job you're in. It makes things a whole lot different.
Yeah, I definitely align with that. It's very inconsistent. And I mean, I remember there were times where I'd play well and everybody, was giving you a pat on the back and a high five. And then when you don't play well, it's like, wait, am I going to make a living this week? Am I going to be able to put food on the table? I'm not really sure. And the inconsistencies overseas, I mean, you're truly playing for the love of the sport and, with the hope that you're going to get, a little bit of monetary growth and value. What were some cool lessons that you learned from playing overseas?
Well, I learned the definite impact of every game matters, because you have 2, 3, I would say a max of 4 bad games in a row. We used to call it Air Canada. you're out of there, man. Like, they're not, their tolerance. Yeah, exactly. Their tolerance for, I guess, poor performance is, I mean, slim to zero, man. Like, as soon as you see another American come in and like a guy's having a couple bad games, it's like somebody's going home. You don't know who, but they're not bringing in somebody that's practicing, you know what I mean? Fresh off the plane, practicing, getting them ready, learning the plays. Somebody's going home soon. So I think that is what really made me understand how every night matters, man. You got to bring it every night.
Totally. There's a huge consistency factor.
Exactly. And there's like no job security over there to some degree unless you've won a championship, unless you've been an MVP, unless you've got some sort of credibility or lineage with the organization, or a good agent, or you brought over one of your homeboys who can hoop and then he does well too, then that gives you more clout. You know what I mean? So there are a lot of little idiosyncrasies that go with the overseas game that can keep you there for a very, very long time. You can make a really good living. Or the flip side, you can be bouncing around from country to country, attempting to make a footprint somewhere, but you have a couple bad streaks and then you're kind of sent back to the crib. So
very cool, man. Well, you've just demonstrated so much perseverance and your love for the game. Some people would knock you because you've never given up your hoop dreams. You've continued to live them. You've navigated building a family. You've got 2 kids. You've navigated various careers that enable you to make a living, and you're now dabbling in the real estate world a little bit. Can you share with people a little bit about what basketball means to you? There's so many articles out there that I've read about your continual drive and, sending Greg Popovich from the San Antonio Spurs emails and just letting him know that, like, hey, I'm here. I want to serve, the organization. I can be a mentor for some of the younger players. We're cut from the same cloth. He's a 1970 graduate of the Air Force Academy as well. And with that being said, I'd love to hear your story associated with the San Antonio Spurs and your journey as an NBA journeyman trying to make an impact in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, basketball has just, been something that it's just been a passion, right? That's been instilled in me from a very, very young age. I don't know who to give the credit to or where it initially stemmed from, but it's just something that I've always loved, and I think that love just ignited something inside me, gave me a way to express myself. I never want to be known as Antoine Hood, the basketball player, because that's just, what I do. It's not who I am. And I feel that type of dichotomy is extremely important because, the sport is the sport, right? Like, basketball is going to go on with or without me in any capacity, but Antoine's going to be Antoine and have a legacy and a story to tell outside of the sport, So I really just want to be a conduit, a connector, a mentor, especially present day, inside locker rooms between the coaches and the front office. And, to be that go-between, to be the guy that other players can confide in, because I know what it felt like to be a rookie from a military school, having no other military school guys in the locker room. You know what I mean? And just when you go to a team, to have somebody from your alma mater, or to have the same agent, or to have some sort of camaraderie with these guys, it's a game changing, And then for the guys like Luka coming from a different country, like, who do you connect with immediately? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're super talented and super good, but you still got to like the guys and play with and get along at a certain level. And I feel like I've been seasoned through the fire. I feel like I've been through a leadership factory at the academy, and I feel like I can be the Udonis Haslem 2.0, because I think there's a lot of value with these kids that are coming from, especially in the Black community, they don't know their dads. They never had anybody mentor them. They didn't have that male role model figure. And to have someone that's willing, that can connect and coordinate and establish this rapport with them and understand the translation of, hey, the coach's livelihood is on your ability to show up. Like every great team has a great coach and every great coach has great players. So they're synonymous in the same right. But that mental fortitude and resiliency that really, really matters down the stretch, down the grind, down the everything. That's what separates memorable, life-changing teams from teams that just are in the league, and I want to bring all the tools that I have. And I mean, yes, can I still get it done? Of course I can. But I understand as a veteran the importance of this young talent understanding how to not only be a great basketball player, but how to be a better man, how to have high character, how to navigate your family, how to deal with baby mama drama, how to do anything, right? Like you need a sounding board and somebody you can come to that you can confide in, that's not going to go to TMZ and not going to blast your information to the coaching staff or not going to, embarrass you in front of the front office or whatever the case may be, but provide some sense of loyalty and commitment to you as an individual as well as your team to understand that we all need each other and we're all a part of the success and failures that each one of us has. So, I think that's just important, man. And that's really the love of the game that I think the human aspect that you touched on earlier, that component is very, very lost. And the loyalty is almost a word that doesn't exist anymore. So if I can bring some sense of loyalty and camaraderie to any organization, just with everything that I've been through to help the rookies or the vets or, take the leadership burden off LeBron. It's hard. Leadership's the hardest job in the world. And when you're that talented, it gets even more difficult because now there are more eyes on you. So who's the guy in the locker room that can help LeBron not have to be concerned about the rookie that's out the strip club till 2 a.m? You know what I mean? Like, because at the end of the day, it's your team. So every Batman needs a Robin. You know what I mean? So I'm just volunteering this tribute to be that Robin to the Dame Lillard Batman or LeBron or Giannis or Steph Curry or whoever the superstar is. You know what I mean? Like DeMar Rosen. You need a guy like me behind this. It's like a vice president, man. Everybody needs one. Can you name the last 10 vice presidents? I can't. But they are an integral part. The president can't be the president without the vice. And Batman can't be Batman without Robin.
Totally. I think it's cool, too. You think about some of these superstars and the bags of rocks that they're carrying. They get heavy over time. There's a huge burden and there's a lot of notoriety and cameras on them all the time. And, if you can co-pilot the journey of, those guys and also the other guys in the locker room and make their bag of rocks a little bit lighter, it helps everybody operate a little bit more seamlessly and keeps trouble off of the desk of the front office and allows guys to feel like they have a connection. So that way they're not, having 7 bad games because they're having issues off of the court without somebody to help them manage those responsibilities. And so I think it's a really cool avenue, Antoine. I think it's also cool to see how it comes full circle of not only your journey, but integrating the leadership qualities that you've developed throughout your life and the perspective that you've acquired through being a cancer survivor, through navigating, growing up in the suburbs where, that's for whatever reason, not super respected from guys that are, coming up from the hood. It's like a funny thing, but it's also, you create unique relatability and you have just so many tools in your toolbox and hopefully that bleeds through in our very special conversation today. And you just have so much love and passion for the game. And so many people, end up just calling it quits or they pivot or they do different things. And, I'm one of those people, who ultimately decided to pivot. Like, other than right now, I don't remember the last time I touched a basketball, man, but I had to because I knew I was going to get to chat with you a little bit today. So I had to touch this bad boy and remember what it feels like a little bit. So, awesome connecting with you today, man. Like, it's just so cool to see your smile, see you light up around passion and leadership and character and trust and love. And, just to show one of the arms and the tentacles that we described from you being a jack of all trades or an octopus, you're an author. You dabble a little bit in poetry. And one of the things that you mentioned to me is this deep root wanting to share education and knowledge around being more human, around toxic masculinity, around being vulnerable and being authentic with the world. What is your poetry all about? And, what can we share with our audience about that arena?
Yeah, man. I mean, like you touched on it, my biggest goal as a writer in this world of toxic masculinity is to understand vulnerability. I want people to unpack those emotions. I want them to get in touch with them, because at the end of the day, you can keep putting elephants in the room, but eventually you can't walk. You know what I mean? And if you're not letting those elephants out, or I hate to say slang an elephant for all the animal rights people, but you know what I mean? Like if you're, for lack of better words, you can't move in a crowded room. You know what I mean? And like I said, all of us have walls, and if those walls don't have a window or a gate or a door or a doggy door or even an air vent or anything, nothing good can come in or come out. And we are just prisoners in our own mind, and there's no growth. And I want to be a advocate for growth and a seed for sowing new things, because every day, the thing I've learned the most, and my new mantra just from my life and experience, is to always be present, always be in the moment, because this is all that I have. And I can only control me in the now. I can't control me an hour ago. I can't focus on what's going to happen 2 hours from now. I can plan for it, yes, but I got to be present, because I'm going to miss opportunities and connections and people if I'm always looking for the weekend, or I'm always looking for the next vacation, or I'm looking for the next board meeting or the next stock or the next crypto, whatever the it is, insert here. You can't miss out on the right now. And that's where I want my poetry to touch people, to unpack those things and understand that being vulnerable is strength. That's the only way to connect with people deeply and truly, because connection can never be created or destroyed. But if I'm not authentic and vulnerable, I'll never find it anywhere on this planet. You can build a stronger bond with people. You can have chemistry with people. You can, make believe that somebody's something that they're not. But what you can't fake is authenticity and connection. You can't fake it. And if people spent more time looking inward on who they are and who they're going to be, then you never have to be concerned. You know what I mean? Like, you can't please the world no matter what you do. I could give everybody in the world $1 million. I'm still going to be hated, and that's just the reality. So you have to, like the old saying goes, be you, because everyone else is taken. But you got to find out who you is. Sorry for the the English, verbiage disorder, but that's important, man, because we are all special in our own right, and we can all be influenced. We can have mentors. We can all these other things. But at the end of the day, it's your story. It's your journey. It's your path. And you have to walk it, and you have to experience it, and you have to live it, so that whatever your love story is, whatever your journey is, it has to be yours and yours alone. And I think if the more people that get that, the better place we'll live in, the better relationships we'll have, that relationship currency, which is some of the best currency on the planet. People can resonate with real and authentic, because they're very few, man. Like, real people are on the back of milk cartons these days. You just can't find them, and it's a sad reality that when you do meet someone else that's authentic, it's an instant connection, because authenticity is dead. And I want to revitalize that, man, and just pour into it.
I love the way you just pour out every ounce of yourself in everything that you do. And it shows in your NBA career. It shows in who you currently are as a man and who you strive to become, and share, all the tools in your toolbox that you've acquired along the way. Thank you so much for doing this with me today, man, and being such a bright light in this volatile world. And I can't help but throw this out there, that you have this unique optimism about you, where you uniquely find a way to see a window opened when everyone else sees it closed. So thank you so much, Antoine. For those of you listening or observing on YouTube, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And as always, stay on the hunt for who you've not yet become. Are you over 35 and in need of a solid training program? Are you looking to improve your athleticism and keep up with the younger athletes in your CrossFit gym? Then look no further than our Invictus Masters program. This program places year-round emphasis on mobility and stability exercises with movements that we have seen directly benefit our Masters athletes. Our program is led by Nicole DeHart and offers a training program designed specifically for Masters athletes who are looking to compete at a higher level in the sport of CrossFit. Some of our top masters athletes in the world train with us, including CrossFit Games champion Kevin Kester, Matt Beals, and Pat Sprague. You can learn more about their stories and the Invictus Masters program by checking out their episodes right here on the Invictus Mindset Podcast. If you'd like more information about the current training cycle or to join the Invictus Masters program, please email Nicole at invictusathlete.com. That's NICHOLE at invictusathlete.com.